Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts and we're back with another video, and this is going to be a review of Knight of Cups, which is a film directed by Terrence Malick, and to me, this is honestly one of the most meditative movies that I have ever seen in my life, as it was just so well acted and directed. And not just that, but this is a film that I totally recommend that you should go check out once in your life, as it is going to be an experience that you will never forget. And I am just going to let you know that there will be a lot of spoilers in this review. I am going to break down the plot of this film. So, a successful screenwriter is in search of love and his true self. He does so by retracing his past and going through his relationships with 6 different women. If there was one thing that I really liked about this film, is the way and how it does such a great job at telling a story that is deeply compelling. And while it may look simple at times, this is a very well written and complex movie that will stay with you long after it's over. And to me, one of the most interesting things about this film is the fact that it is so much more than just an experimental romantic drama, but a quiet and powerful study on the search for meaning in the modern world. And not just that, but I thought some of the acting performances were really well done, especially from Christian Bale as Rick. And to me, this is honestly one of his best performances, as he does such an amazing job at portraying his character as someone who you can actually care about. And when we first see his character in the opening scene of the film, it immediately starts off with him spending his time wandering through a massive desert. But as the scene goes on, it quickly transitions into a shot of him driving around and partying with a group of models. And this is where you start to realize that this is a man who feels completely trapped by his life in Hollywood. And to me, I thought that this was a perfect introduction into who he really is as a person. And not just that, but it perfectly sets up everything for the film that you are about to see. And I am not going to lie to you right now. Out of all of the films that I have seen in my life, no movie shows a more realistic depiction of existential loneliness better than this film right here. And you can really see that from Rick's character arc throughout the film. One of the most interesting things about him as a character is the way and how he tries to do everything that he can in order to find a sense of purpose and meaning into his own existence. And while he knows that he can never escape from his own Hollywood lifestyle, you can really see that he is trying to become a better person through the relationships that he has with Nancy and Elizabeth. And not just that, but the film implies that he is a physical manifestation of the prince who is trying to find a spiritual pearl, and the emptiness of modern Hollywood as a whole. And to me, it really adds a lot to the fact that he is honestly one of the most well written and deeply complex characters in the history of cinema. And you can really see that from Christian Bale's powerful but subtle performance in this film. And I am not going to let it right now. He deserves a lot of praise for his performance in this movie, as it was just that fucking good. And not just that, but this is a pretty realistic depiction of a man who is trying to do everything that he can in order to find a sense of meaning in a world that already gives him everything that he wants, despite the fact that he is a famous Hollywood celebrity. And to me, one of the most interesting things about this film is the way in how it does such a great job at showing you how Hollywood treats its actors. Like how you get eaten up and spat out by the Hollywood system. And you can really see that from Rick's character arc in this film, as he is a man who feels like his whole life in Hollywood feels like it has no meaning. So, what he does instead is try to find meaning through something else. The people who he interacts with. And to me, it really goes to show you that this film has a lot of meaning. And I just don't understand why critics saw this film as nothing more pretentious and self-indulgent trash. This film is the complete opposite of that. And if you really think about it in a way, it's actually kind of thought-provoking. As this is true philosophical meanings done through cinema. And if there was one thing that I really liked about Christian Bale's performance in this movie, is the way in how he brought so much depth and humanity into this character. As it really goes to show you that he is honestly one of the greatest actors working in Hollywood today. As he does such an amazing job at playing characters who are deeply complex. And you can really see that from this film right here. And overall, Rick is such a well-written character. And Christian Bale honestly makes this film so much better than it already is. And I am not going to let it right now. This is definitely up there as being one of the most quiet and emotionally powerful performances in the history of cinema, as he fits perfectly with the film's themes of existential loneliness and the search for meaning in a world that doesn't make any sense. And while it's not as good as some of his other roles, it's still one of the most powerful and underrated performances in his entire career as an actor. And while the film may look garbage, Christian Bale still gives a good performance. Plus, that is the main reason on why I like him as an actor, because he brings a good performance in any film that he is in. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. There is a reason on why he is such a great actor. And this film fucking proves that. I thought Natalie Portman did a pretty great job playing Elizabeth, despite the fact that she wasn't in the film that much. And to me, one of the most interesting things about her as a character is the way and how she tries to do everything that she can in order to bring a sense of meaning into Rick's life. But if there was one thing that I really liked about her performance in this movie, is the way and how she brought so much depth into the role, as it really made Elizabeth so much more than just a generic side character, but someone who you can actually care about. And you can really see that from the way and how she's portrayed as being a married woman who feels completely lost in her life, as she is also dealing with her own personal struggles. Like, she is dealing with her pregnancy. And you can really see that in the scene of where she confesses that to Rick. And not just that, but I thought the relationship between her and Rick was just so well done. As it really goes to show you that Knight of Cups is honestly one of the most underrated movies that has ever been made. And overall, this is honestly one of Natalie Portman's best performances, as it really goes to show you that she is honestly one of the best actors working in Hollywood today, as she brings so much depth into her performances, even if they aren't the main character at times. And I totally recommend that you should go check out some of her other roles, like Black Swan, for example, as that is just an absolute masterpiece that we just don't get from modern Hollywood anymore. And it wasn't just her and Christian Bale that gave great performances, but I thought the supporting cast did a pretty great job playing their characters, even if they weren't in the film that much. Especially from Teresa Palmer as Karen, Antonio Banderas as Tonio, and Imogen Poots as Della. And I am not going to lie to you right now. This is honestly some of the best acting that you are ever going to get from a Hollywood movie like this. And while this is an art film, it's pretty well written in a way. I thought Terrence Malick's direction of the film was just so well done, as it's just honestly one of the main reasons on why he is such a great director. And you can really see that from how he does such a great job at telling a deeply compelling but powerful story about a man's search for meaning in a world that feels completely meaningless. And to me, it really goes to show you that he is just the absolute best, especially when it comes to telling stories that feel deeply intimate but thought provoking all at the same time. And Knights of Cups is a perfect example of that. And I am not going to lie to you right now. We need more movies just like this, especially when we are living in an age of where every film that comes out nowadays is nothing more but generic and soulless slop that nobody fucking asked for. Oh, and you know what's the biggest problem affecting Hollywood right now? Is the fact that they are hiring writers that care less about telling a good story, but more about pushing identity politics. Because you wanna know why we go to films in the first place? It's to just be entertained. And if they can't realize that, then just look at the fact that every film that is coming out nowadays is bombing at the box office. And while there were some good films that came out this year, it doesn't excuse the fact that Hollywood did it to themselves. And you know what? They fucking deserve it. And I am actually gonna be honest right now. Terrence Malick deserves a lot more praise for his direction of this film, as he made an absolute masterpiece that will stay with you long after it's over. And I totally recommend that you should go check out some of his other work, like The Tree of Life, Song to Song, Days of Heaven, The Thin Red Line, and many more, as they're just absolute masterpieces that we just don't get from modern Hollywood anymore. The cinematography is honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is so fucking good. But if there was one thing that I really liked about it, is how it gives the film a very meditative but intimate feel to every scene that takes place. And not just that, but it is all done in a way to reflect the mental state from the main character and the emptiness of Los Angeles as a whole. And not just that, but I thought the use of natural lighting was just so well done, as it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about. And overall, this is honestly some of the best cinematography that I have ever seen in a film like this. And while it may look generic at times, it fits perfectly with the film's themes and its story. And I am just going to let you know that this is the same cinematographer who worked with Terrence Malick on a lot of his films. And to me, this is honestly some of his best work, as it really goes to show you that Emmanuel Lubezki is honestly one of the greatest cinematographers working in Hollywood today, and Knight of Cups is a perfect fucking example of that. And I even heard that some of the critics hated the film, but they praised the cinematography. And I have to agree with them on that, because the cinematography in this movie is just fucking stunning to look at. I thought the symbolism of tarot cards in this movie was just so well done, as it is all done in a way to represent the spiritual journey that the main character has to go through and the film's narrative structure as a whole. And to me, it really goes to show you that Knight of Cups is just an underrated masterpiece that is most definitely worth your time. One of the most interesting things about this film is the way in how it does such a great job at showing you just how empty and soulless that modern Hollywood really is. And you can really see that from Rick's character throughout the film, as he spends the rest of his time hanging around with women who don't give him the sense of meaning that he wants, or going to parties where he knows that it won't bring any peace or meaning into his own existence. And to me, it really goes to show you that Knight of Cups is honestly one of the most thought-provoking movies that has ever been made. And not just that, but it makes me realize that we just don't get movies like this anymore. I thought Cate Blanchett did a pretty good job playing Nancy, despite the fact that she was only in the film for a couple of scenes. And to me, one of the most interesting things about her as a character is the way in how she tries to do everything that she can in order to help Rick out with his situation, despite the fact that she is also dealing with her own personal struggles as a nurse. But if there was one thing that I really liked about Cate Blanchett's performance, is the way in how she brought so much depth and complexity into the role, as it really made Nancy so much more than just a generic side character, but someone who was deeply compelling and just so well written all at the same time. And overall, this is honestly one of Cate Blanchett's most underrated performances, as it really goes to show you that she can do such a great job at playing characters who are deeply complex, even if they aren't the main character at times. And you can really see that from this film right here. And not just that, but I thought Brian Dennehy did a pretty good job playing Joseph, despite the fact that he wasn't in the film that much, as he is a perfect example of an abusive but troubled father. And Brian Dennehy does such an amazing job at showing that through his performance. And it really goes to show you that he is honestly one of the most underrated actors in the history of modern cinema. I thought the party scene is honestly one of the most powerful scenes that I have ever seen in a film like this, as it fits perfectly with everything that this whole movie is about. So the scene immediately starts off with Rick spending his time at a party that he feels completely out of place in, while he is being surrounded by a group of Hollywood elites who tried to drag him in to a ketamine party. And you can really see that from how he sees the party as nothing more but soulless and empty as he wanders through the area. And I just want to say that the acting from Christian Bale in this scene is honestly some of the best acting that I have ever seen in a film like this, as you can really feel his character's pain and desperation throughout the film, and you can really tell that he doesn't want to be there. But this is what happens in Hollywood. And while Hollywood parties aren't as glamorous as this one, they are way more disturbing and erotic. This is a perfect example of how empty Hollywood can be. Everything about them is just hollow. There's no meaning to it. And it's pretty relevant to how we see Hollywood today, because it is a dying industry full of people that don't give a fuck about you, but more about money. Don't waste your fucking time with these new films. They ain't fucking worth it. And I am not going to lie to you right now. This is a pretty realistic depiction of a man who is finally coming to terms with himself and his own reality. And it is just honestly one of the main reasons on why Knight of Cups is a thought-provoking masterpiece that will stick with you long after you've first seen it, as it perfectly captures the hedonistic emptiness of modern Hollywood. Terrence Malick is a master when it comes to telling stories like this. Just look at The Tree of Life, as that film is a masterpiece when it comes to its writing, its directing, its cinematography, the incredible performances from Brad Pitt and Jessica Chastain, and the film's themes of existentialism and dysfunctional families. While here, it touches on themes that remain pretty relevant to our current society. And while Christian Bale's performance isn't as good as some of his other roles, like just look at American Psycho or The Dark Knight, that's like one of his best performances, but here he plays a man who feels like his whole life has no purpose and he's trying to find it, but he just doesn't know what to do. Like, seriously, go watch this film. But if there was one thing that I really didn't like about this film, is the fact that it can get pretty boring and generic at times. But still, this is honestly one of the most compelling and thought-provoking stories that you will ever get in a film like this. And I'm just gonna say something. If you want a film with good writing, good directing, and good storytelling, then go watch this film. Because you are not gonna get a film like this ever again. And this goes the same way with two of Terrence Malick's other films, like Song to Song and To the Wonder, as they are both abstract films, but they touch on themes that feel so deep. Like, seriously, if you're expecting a traditional plot, you're not gonna find it in these three films, as they are more about how do we live our lives? Do we feel like there's something more to them? That's what these films do such a great job at exploring. And you can really thank Terrence Malick for doing that. Sorry. I have a cough. Okay. This is the rating that this film got on Rotten Tomatoes. So 47% from the critics and 38% from the audience. And I am going to read out the reviews right now. So for the first review, Knight of Cups is a big pile of nonsense. For the second one, the lack of any plot, one-dimensional characters, the vacant lifestyle of decadence are pretentious at worst and ironic at best. For the third one, for anyone who is expecting a plot, an emotional connection to complicated characters, or some semblance of motivation, they will be frustrated by Knight of Cups. Honestly, These are the kind of critics that praise movies that have super long takes and they're from foreign countries. But if you get a film like this, they just hate on it because it isn't what they want. Fucking hypocrites. For the fourth one, Nine of Cups will be outright alienating for most people. For the fifth one, it's not that Terrence Malick's themes of emptiness and disconnect are too obscure. He just doesn't make them interesting. For the sixth one, I just need a break from Terrence Malick. For the seventh one, Knight of Cups is a film that feels that it has something important to say, much like a 20-year-old college student who has tried weed for the first time, but in reality, just like said college student, it is speaking nothing but gibberish. And as I read these reviews, it makes me realize that this film does not deserve the hate that it got from critics. Because when it first came out in 2015, it was absolutely hated on by critics, with some of them even calling the film pretentious and self-indulgent. And to me, I just don't agree with any of that. And while it's not a perfect movie, it's definitely a lot better than some of the dog shit that we get from modern Hollywood, especially nowadays. I thought the soundtrack was just so well done, as it fits perfectly with the film's themes and its story. And I'm going to show you an example of it right now. I'll be right back. It's nearly finished. Alright. Let's go. Sorry that it took so long. So to quickly do something. It's crazy how underrated this film really is. If you're expecting this film to be traditional, I'm sorry to break it to you, it's not. This is an experimental film with deep philosophical meaning that most people won't be able to understand. I saw this film 2 times and I really liked it. Like the first time, I was like, what the fuck was going on? But then on my second watch, completely changed my perspective. This film is meditative. It's intimate. Emmanuel Lubezki's cinematography is incredible. Not just that, but I thought the use of voiceovers really worked with the film's story. Because it was almost like you're being put into Rick's mindset. Dude, what the fuck is going on with me, man? I am going to explain the ending of this film. So, after forgiving his father for all the things that he did to him and his brother, we see a shot of Rick spending his time watching people play in the ocean, as it shows that he is finally abandoning his Hollywood lifestyle and finding a sense of meaning and purpose into his own existence. But as the scene goes on, it quickly transitions into a shot of him starting a new life with his family, as the film ends with a shot of a car driving on the road with him saying the words, begin. And to me, I thought that this was a perfect ending to a film like this, as it shows that he is finally letting go from his past life by starting a new one. And not just that, but it is honestly one of the main reasons on why this film is most definitely worth your time. As it will make you think about your own life in a way like you're not gonna get that from the films that are being made today, because they just like to spoon feed you with stuff you already know. It's not thought provoking. And there was even a film that came out last year called Train Dreams, and I really liked that one because it reminded me of Terrence Malick. And I'm gonna show you the trailers of this film, starting with the first one. Films like this that get bad reviews from critics, even though they're really thought-provoking, should make you think. Do critics really understand deep meanings in films? Or are they just pretentious? Like really, not every film with a deep meaning needs to be critically acclaimed. Just look at The Brown Bunny, Stay, Knight of Cups, Demolition, all these other films. Are masterpieces. Antonio Banderas was so fucking entertaining in this movie. And can I just say, the scenes of where it's just him and Natalie Portman are just so well done, as it felt so fucking surrealistic but so fucking real all at the same time, man. This movie is just something else. Now, for the second one, which was a little bit shorter. In conclusion, this was an amazing film, as it does such a great job at portraying a man who is trying to do everything that he can in order to find a sense of meaning and purpose into his own life. And not just that, but it makes me realize that we just don't get movies like this anymore, especially when we are living in an age of where every film that is coming out nowadays is either a sequel or a remake of something that already came out before. But if there is anything else that I want to say about this film, is go fucking watch it, as it's just an underrated masterpiece when it comes to the acting, directing, and cinematography. And you could really tell that this was made by a filmmaker who actually gave a shit about the film that he wanted to make. And he did it perfectly. And I am just gonna let you know that the next films that I'm gonna be reviewing is The Hunt, directed by Thomas Vinterberg, and Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve. So go get ready for those. And also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now, and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness. and keep supporting films like this, because we need them more than ever before. Oh yeah, see you in the next one.